You know, he came from humble beginnings to recreate what critics meant in print and on television. You had Rex Reed before, you had that crackpot two-faced Pauline Kael, but him and Gene Siskel, I think Siskel's a 9.5 and this guy's a 10. This guy really motivated me to get into all different kind of movies, and despite the fact I didn't agree with all his opinions, I think he's the best movie reviewer of all time, the one I respect the most, Roger Ebert. Born on June 1842 in Urbana, Illinois, the only child of Annabelle, a bookkeeper, and Walter, an electrician. He was raised Roman Catholic, attended St. Mary's Elementary School, serving as an altar boy in Urbana. His paternal grandparents were German immigrants, and his maternal ancestry was Irish and Dutch. His first movie memory was of his parents taking him to see the Marx Brothers in the day of the races. Now, when I was a young child, I'm a confirmed Marxist, I watched the Marx Brothers on something called Midday Matinee in New Brunswick, which was on the local CTV channel, and I became hooked. He also wrote that Adventures of Huckleberry Finn was the first real book I ever read, and still the best. He began his writing career with his own newspaper, the Washington Street News, written in his basement. He wrote letters of comment to the science fiction fanzines of the era and founded his own, Stymie. At age 15, he was a sports writer for News Gazette, covering Urbana High School sports. He attended Urbana High School, where in his senior year he was class president and co-editor of his high school newspaper, The Echo. In 1958, he won the Illinois High School Association State Speech Championship in radio speaking, an event that simulates radio newscasts. Now, according to Ebert, his own lines, and I know where he's coming from, I learned to be a movie critic by reading Mad magazine. Mad's parodies made me aware of the machine inside the skin, of the way a movie might look original on the outside, while inside it was just recycling the same old dumb formulas. I did not read the magazine, I plundered it for clues to the universe. Pauline Kael lost it at the movies, I lost it at Mad magazine. Now, Roger Ebert, Mad About the Movies, 98 Parody Collection. When he began taking classes at University of Illinois Urbana at Champaign as an early entrance student, he completed his high school courses while also taking his first university class. After graduating from Urbana in 1960, he attended the University of Illinois and received his undergraduate degree in journalism in 1964. While there, Ebert worked as a reporter for the Daily Illini and served as editor during his senior year while continuing to work for the News Gazette. His college mentor was Daniel Curley, who introduced me to many of the cornerstones of my life's reading. The love songs of J. Alfred Prufrock, Crime and Punishment, Madame Bovary, The Ambassadors, Nostromo, The Professor's House, The Great Gatsby, and A Sound and the Fury. He approached these works with undisguised admiration. We discussed patterns of symbolism, felicities of language, motivation, revelation of character. This was appreciation, not the savagery of deconstruction, which approaches literature as pliers do a rose. One of his classmates was Larry Woiwode, who went on to be the poet laureate of North Dakota. At the Daily Illini, Ebert befriended William Knack, was a sports writer of Recover Secretariat. As an undergraduate, he was a member of the Phi Delta Theta fraternity and president of the United States Student Press Association. One of his first reviews he wrote was of La Dolce Vita, published in the Daily Illini in October 1961. As a graduate student, he had the good fortune to enroll in the class on Shakespeare's tragedies taught by G. Blakemore Evans. It was then that Shakespeare took hold of me. It became clear he was the nearest we have come to a voice for what it means to be human. Now, Ebert spent a semester as a master's student in the Department of English there before attending the University of Cape Town on a Rotary Fellowship for a year. He returned from Cape Town to his graduate studies at Illinois for 2 more semesters and then being accepted as a PhD student at the University of Chicago. He prepared to move there. He needed a job to support himself while he worked on his doctorate, so he applied to the Chicago Daily News, hoping that, as he had already sold freelance pieces to the Daily News, including an article on the death of writer Brendan Behan, he would be hired by editor Herman Cogan. Said Cogan referred Ebert to the city editor of the Chicago Sun-Times, Jim Hoge, who hired him as a reporter and feature writer in 1966. He did attend doctoral classes at the University of Chicago while working as a general reporter for a year. After movie critic Eleanor Keene left the Sun-Times in April '67, editor Robert Zonka gave the job to Ebert. The paper wanted a young critic to cover movies like The Graduate and films by Jean-Luc Godard and Francois Truffaut. The load of graduate school and being a film critic proved too much, so Ebert left the University of Chicago to focus his energies on film criticism. Now, Ebert's first review to Chicago Sun-Times began. Georges Lautner's Galia opens and closes with arty shots of the ocean, mother of us all, but between it's pretty clear that what is washing ashore is the French New Wave. He recalls that within the day after Zonka gave me the job, I read The Immediate Experience by Robert Warshaw, from which he gleaned that the critic has to set aside theory and ideology, theology and politics, and open himself to, well, the immediate experience. The same year, he met film critic Pauline Kael for the first time at the New York Film Festival. After he sent her some of his columns, she told him they were the best film criticism being done in American newspapers today. He recalls her telling him how she worked. I go into a movie, I watch it, and ask myself what happened to me. A form of the experience was reviewing Ingmar Bergman's Persona. He told his editor he wasn't sure how to review it, and when he didn't feel he could explain it, the editor, though he didn't have to explain it, just describe it. And you know what I think about that movie? Look at the SCTV version. That sums it up for me. It was the first critics to champion Arthur Penn's Bonnie and Clyde, calling it a milestone in the history of American movies. So why Ebert was so vital to movie criticism of the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, because he came up in the Young Guns era, the Bonnies and Clyde, the Warren Beatty's, the Cassavetes, the Scorsese's, all these different people, documentary, realism, Truffaut, all the different stuff. It was a right place, a right time. He also wrote Martin Scorsese's first review for Who's That Knocking on My Door, the title I Called First, and predicted the young director could become an American Fellini. Now, for some reason, he co-wrote the screenplay for Russ Meyer's Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, and sometimes joked about being responsible for it. It was poorly received in its release, and yet it's become a cult film. Ebert and Meyer also made Up, Beneath the Valley of the Ultra Vixens, and other films, and were involved in the ill-fated Sex Pistols film, Who Killed Bambi. In April 2010, Ebert posted the screenplay of Who Killed Bambi, also known as Anarchy in the UK, on his blog. Beginning in '68, he did become a guest lecturer for University of Chicago, teaching a night class on film at the Graham School of Continuing Liberal and Professional Studies. Now, he won his first Pulitzer in '75 for criticism. In the afternoon of his win, he was offered jobs in the New York Times and the Washington Post, but declined them both as he did not wish to leave Chicago. That same year, he and Gene Siskel of the competing Chicago Tribune began co-hosting a weekly film review TV show, opening soon in a theater near you, later Snake Previews, which was locally produced by the Chicago Public Broadcasting System, WTTW. The series was later picked up for national syndication on PBS. The duo became well known for the thumbs up, thumbs down reviews, and he trademarked the phrase, 2 thumbs up. Now, At the Movies followed to a syndicated commercial version. It's very rare that you go from what he called public TV to international syndication. Now, why Ebert is so good, or was so good at what he did, is because he wasn't scared to give his opinion. And if it was really crap, 9 times out of 10, if he said it was crap, it was no good. But I remember him doing reviews of key movies, Canadian movies, movies like with John Cusack, different, what he called a side junk of the Brad Pack. Siskel was a more romantic, Siskel was fascinated with dance movies. He bought John Travolta's famous outfit. But I think Ebert was better than Siskel in this way. Siskel would play to the audience while Ebert would play to himself. And Siskel wasn't as much as egotist as Ebert. And I think that really hurt Siskel. Because Siskel basically was still a second banana to Ebert. Because they did a poll once and said, who's the most popular? I think Ebert won by several points. Because Siskel seemed to be more school marmy, while Ebert seems like the nerd who exploded to great success. And I really do miss him. I miss Siskel as well, having them together every weekend for 21 minutes plus commercials. I became a better writer of movie criticism. I became a better appreciatory of movies. And what's kind of funny, ladies and gentlemen, I've been writing movie reviews and columns for 42 years. And ironically, do the math, okay? He started in pretty well the early 1960s and died in 2013. So I have 42 years in, and he had 50 years in. And I'm getting close to, I think I'm the longest standing movie columnist or critic in New Brunswick history, which is not saying much because I think there's only been two. And one of them was my coworker, and he wasn't a movie critic. He was a movie reviewer. I'm an essayist. So everything I do as a movie critic, I owe a lot to Roger Ebert, and I owe a lot to the bad movies I saw as a kid, and the bad movies I brought my brother Joshua to over the years, because bad can be good at the same time. So, ladies and gentlemen, the great legend of Roger Ebert. I know he's been dead for a decade. I think celebrating him on the long New Brunswick Day weekend, if you listen to this column, please read his reviews. And I never liked Leonard Maltin. He was more smarmy. But Ebert and Siskel, they call him Siskel and Ebert. Ebert was the put it this way. Chris Shambles is Gene Siskel, and Reggie Jackson is Roger Ebert. He's the straw that stirred the drink. So, ladies and gentlemen, you like what they're doing with our screenshots columns? Let us know in a like, comment, subscribe, or share.